In this episode, we are taking a very practical look at how a small office and home office (SOHO) network should come together so people can work, browse, print, stream, and connect from outside without constant frustration. New learners sometimes imagine that a good small network has to look complicated to be effective, but the truth is almost the opposite. A good SOHO network is clear, stable, and easy to understand, because the people using it usually do not have time to fight with dropped Wi-Fi, missing printers, or remote access that only works on certain days. That is why this topic matters so much for A+. A technician may not be building a giant enterprise environment, but they still need to understand how wired connections, wireless connections, internet access, guest access, and basic remote entry fit together into one working whole. When those pieces are planned well, the network feels simple to the user. When they are not planned well, every small task starts to feel unreliable. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is part of our companion study series. The first book is a detailed study guide that explains the exam and helps you prepare for it with confidence. The second is a Kindle-only ebook with 1,000 flashcards you can use on your mobile device or Kindle for quick review. You can find both at Cyber.Me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A SOHO environment usually has fewer devices and less complexity than a large business network, but that does not mean it can be careless. A home office may still have laptops, phones, printers, tablets, smart displays, wireless speakers, and a few business tools that all need predictable access. A small office may add shared printers, wired desktop systems, point-of-sale devices, cameras, or a file-sharing tool that everyone depends on each day. The network in that space has to support local communication inside the building, internet access to outside services, and sometimes remote access for someone working from home or traveling. That means the design should match the real work being done there instead of trying to copy a much larger environment. A beginner should remember that the goal is not to make the network impressive. The goal is to make it dependable, understandable, and easy to support when something stops working. Good SOHO connectivity starts with knowing what users actually need the network to do. Wired connectivity is still one of the best tools for making a small network stable, because a cable removes many of the variables that cause wireless frustration. A desktop computer, printer, docking station, or streaming device that stays in one place often works better when it has a direct wired path to the network. That path usually offers steadier speed, less interference, and fewer surprise disconnects than a wireless connection in the same location. Beginners sometimes assume wired networking is old-fashioned, but in support work it is often the simplest way to make an important device more reliable. If a user depends on a shared printer every day, or a desktop must stay online for meetings and file access, a cable is often a smart choice. Wired links also make troubleshooting easier because one major variable is removed right away. When a device is cabled in and still has trouble, the technician can focus more on addressing, service, or hardware instead of wondering whether walls, distance, or signal crowding are part of the story. Wireless connectivity matters just as much in SOHO environments because many devices are mobile and need to move around easily. Laptops, phones, tablets, and other portable systems are expected to connect quickly without a cable and still give a smooth experience. That is where wireless network design becomes important, even in a smaller space. A user may only see Wi-Fi as a name they tap on the screen, but the technician needs to think about coverage, signal strength, crowding, and whether the wireless network is easy to identify correctly. This is also where the Service Set Identifier, SSID, becomes useful. The SSID is simply the network name users see when choosing which wireless network to join. A clear SSID helps people connect to the right network without confusion, while a poor naming choice can make support harder because users may keep joining the wrong signal, the guest network, or an older network they should no longer be using. Building a good SOHO network usually means using both wired and wireless access in ways that make sense together instead of treating them like separate worlds. A wired desktop may sit beside a wireless laptop and both still need to reach the same printer, the same internet connection, and the same shared business tools. That means the technician should think about one local environment with different access methods rather than two unrelated systems. Wired links are best where devices stay put and reliability matters most, while wireless links are best where mobility and convenience matter more. Trouble begins when every device is pushed onto Wi-Fi just because it is easy, or when wireless coverage is ignored because the main desk works fine with a cable. The network should match how people actually move and work in the space. A small office that uses video meetings, shared printers, cloud tools, and mobile phones needs a wireless design that reaches the real work areas, while fixed devices that carry heavy daily use should often be given the stability of a wired connection. Internet access in a SOHO setup depends on a small group of devices and settings working together in the correct order. There is usually a provider connection coming into the building, a device that connects the local network to that outside service, and then wired or wireless paths that distribute access to user devices. In many homes and small offices, several of those functions are bundled into one all-in-one device, which is convenient but can make it harder for beginners to picture what is happening. The important idea is that local access and internet access are not exactly the same thing. A user may still be able to reach a local printer or another nearby computer even if the outside internet path is broken. That is why a technician should think of the internet side as a separate stage in the journey. When local devices can still talk to each other but websites and cloud tools stop working, the issue may be closer to the provider path, the gateway function, or the outside-facing part of the network rather than the local wiring or Wi-Fi itself. Addressing also has to work correctly, or the whole SOHO design starts to feel unreliable, even when the physical connections look fine. Most small environments depend on automatic addressing so that phones, laptops, and tablets can join the network and receive the settings they need without the user typing anything in by hand. Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, DHCP, is the service that usually handles that job. When DHCP is working, the device receives an address, a gateway, and usually domain name system, DNS, information so it can find websites and services by name. When DHCP fails or gives out bad information, the user often experiences the network as half-working. The device may show that it is connected to Wi-Fi or plugged in, yet still fail to load websites, reach shared resources, or use business tools correctly. For a beginner, the key lesson is that a connection symbol alone is not proof of a healthy network. The device also needs correct settings behind that connection. Guest access is one of the smartest decisions in a SOHO environment because it solves both security and convenience problems at the same time. Visitors often need internet access, but they usually do not need to see printers, shared folders, office devices, or business systems. A guest wireless option gives them a simple way to get online without putting them inside the same main network space as the devices that support daily work. This keeps the environment cleaner and reduces the chance that a visitor's phone, tablet, or laptop will accidentally create confusion or risk inside the main office network. Beginners should think of guest access as a separate waiting room rather than a full pass into the work area. If the main wireless network is shared too freely with visitors, the office loses some control over who is sitting inside the same local environment as printers, smart devices, and work computers. A guest option makes support easier because it reduces unnecessary mixing between personal visitor devices and the network that people depend on to get their jobs done. SSID planning matters more than many beginners expect because wireless names shape how users behave every day. A network name should be clear, easy to recognize, and simple enough that users do not guess their way onto the wrong one. In a small environment, it is often helpful to have one main wireless network for trusted day-to-day use and one guest network for visitors. That keeps the choice easy without turning the screen into a long list of confusing names. Problems often begin when people create too many similar wireless names, keep old ones long after they are no longer needed, or choose names that make it unclear which one is the actual work network. A technician does not need to be fancy here. The better choice is usually the simpler one. If the user can instantly tell which wireless network is for normal work and which one is for visitors, support calls become easier because fewer people connect to the wrong place and then report that printers, files, or office tools have mysteriously disappeared. Remote access adds another layer to SOHO networking because many small environments now expect at least some basic ability to work from outside the building. A user may need to reach files, business applications, remote desktops, or internal services while traveling or working from home. That need makes remote entry an important part of the design, but it also makes safety much more important. Remote access should not mean opening everything to the public internet and hoping for the best. A safer approach often involves controlled remote tools or a virtual private network, VPN, which creates a more protected path back into the private network. For beginners, the big idea is that remote access is not just about convenience. It is about convenience with control. The user needs a practical way in, but the business also needs some confidence that not every outside device or outside person can see the same resources. Good remote access balances ease of use with sensible limits. Remote access also needs to fit the actual work being done, because not every small environment needs the same kind of outside access. Some people only need cloud-based tools, which means they may not need much access back into the office network at all. Others need to reach a shared office computer, a file repository, or a business application that still lives inside the local network. That difference matters because it changes how much remote access infrastructure is really necessary. Beginners sometimes think remote access always means one big solution that gives complete entry to everything, but that is often more than a small environment needs and can create unnecessary risk. A better habit is to ask what the user truly needs from outside. If the goal is limited and specific, the access method should be limited and specific too. A smaller, clearer remote path is often easier to support and safer to manage than a broad, open design that was built without a clear purpose. Physical layout plays a huge role in whether SOHO connectivity actually works in real life, even when the device list and settings look fine on paper. Wireless coverage depends on distance, walls, furniture, metal, appliances, and where the main wireless device sits in the space. A network cornered in a back closet may technically function, but it may not reach the areas where people actually work well enough to feel dependable. Cables matter too, because poorly placed wired equipment can make desks messy, create strain on connectors, or lead users to unplug the wrong thing when they need a quick power outlet. Good design in a smaller environment often means putting network equipment in a central, practical location and thinking about how users actually move through the space. If the desk area, conference room, and front workspace all depend on wireless, those areas need to be part of the plan. A network should be designed for the real building and the real workflow, not just for the easiest place to drop the hardware. When connectivity problems show up, the symptoms often tell you whether the trouble is more likely wired, wireless, or remote. A wired problem may affect one desk device or one cluster of devices and often feels steady and specific. A wireless problem often changes with movement, distance, or crowding and may affect phones and laptops differently, depending on where the user stands. A remote access problem may leave the user with normal home internet, but no way to reach office resources that usually appear only through the protected remote path. This is why a beginner technician should listen carefully to where the user is, what still works, and whether the failure only happens inside or outside the office. Those details matter because they turn a vague complaint into a pattern. If the local printer works from the office laptop, but not from a visiting phone, that suggests one kind of issue. If everything is fine inside the office, but unreachable from outside, that points much more strongly toward the remote path. Putting all of this together means thinking like a technician who wants the smallest environment to feel calm and dependable instead of clever and overbuilt. Start with a stable internet path into the building. Give important fixed devices a wired connection where possible. Make wireless simple, strong, and easy to identify with a clear main SSID and a separate guest option. Let automatic addressing do most of the work unless there is a clear reason to hold certain device addresses steady. Add remote access only to the level the users truly need, and choose a method that protects the environment instead of exposing everything. None of these ideas are flashy, but that is exactly why they work well in SOHO spaces. The best small network is usually the one that feels boring in the best possible way, because users are not thinking about it at all. They are just getting their work done, printing what they need, and reaching the tools they depend on without daily surprises. The main lesson to carry forward is that SOHO connectivity works best when it is built around real use, clear separation, and simple choices that reduce confusion. Wired access gives stability to devices that stay put. Wireless access gives freedom to mobile devices, but it needs clear naming, good placement, and sensible guest separation to stay manageable. Internet access, local access, and remote access are connected, but they are not the same thing, and a good technician learns to think about each one as a different part of the path. When you understand that, the title of this episode becomes much more practical. You are not just building a network that turns on. You are building a network that actually works for people inside the space, outside the space, and across the normal mix of cables, Wi-Fi, and remote entry that small homes and offices now rely on every day.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit BareMetalCyber.com.